All right. All right. I'm gonna get us started and call us to order. Is that a thing? I think we could probably be done by 12:30 unless you've got a ton of questions. I want to be honest. I'm here to answer them. So, me and our board members are happy to answer any questions, and we just, like I said, we want to always make sure that there's transparency and openness. And one thing I will say, if you're online and you would like a copy of the budget, I can't promise we're going to get it to you right now, but I'm going to go through all the line items, and if you would like to see it more in depth, just message us and let us know. And we'll make sure we get you a budget, and you're certainly welcome to ask any questions. All right. Still pretty loud in here, huh? Let me go ahead and pray for us. That's how you quiet a room down, a bunch of Christians. So pray. Are we praying? Okay. Let me go ahead and pray for us, and then I'm going to get started. I got a couple of small items just to give you some idea of the next year and what we're hoping to build that we feel like God's leading us to, and then we'll start going through some budget stuff. Am I not loud enough? Can't hear me at all. No, ever. Yeah. Let me pray for us, and then we'll get started. Father, I just thank you tremendously for this opportunity. I thank you for our incredible elders who shepherd and take the responsibility of the decisions on a day-to-day, month-to-month basis very seriously. They recognize their spiritual responsibility before you, Father, and that the weight of their leadership would cause them to stand before you one day for how we have led this church, how we have shepherded this church, how we have served this church. And so, God, I thank you for what happens throughout the year. I thank you for all the work that has gone into preparing this budget and this ministry plan going into this new year, and pray, God, that where our steps are not in alignment with what you would have for us, Father, you would reorient and direct us. I pray moments like this, although going through budget items isn't always people's favorites, I pray they would bring us closer, keep us humble with a desire for transparency and accountability, ultimately knowing we are accountable to you, Father, above all. And so, Father, we praise you, and it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So just a couple of quick things. We are, as I said during our message today, we are a church plant. I mean, at the end of the day, we started just around 3-4 years ago, and God has just been doing incredible things. We were putting out more folding chairs today. Numbers are not the greatest or even best metric for a healthy church. There are many growing organizations. To be honest, drawing a crowd is not hard to do in this day and age. You can do that fairly simply. Do enough of a circus and people will come and watch. And so numbers aren't always the best indicator for health. It's an indicator. There are many other indicators that we're finding that are much healthier indicators. People's spiritual maturity. For me, it's always they say personally, your spiritual maturity is measured by the moment of infraction to the moment of repentance, how long that gap is. When you're a young believer, you just make all kinds of mess and all kinds of mistakes, say all kinds of silly things, and sometimes that gap can be quite wide, but as you mature in Christ, you become more sensitive to the Spirit's pressings and more knowledgeable of the grace of God, and those moments of repentance and confession are not so scary. They're moments of joy and excitement as your life continues to be transformed. And so one of the interesting things about the culture here is how gracious you are, how welcoming you are, how kind you are, how your love for Jesus is more than just an emotional feeling, but it's a real practical outpouring of how you live your lives. And it's been a real joy to watch God just doing incredible things. We'll talk about this in a little bit, but we had a record month almost every month was a record month last year, but December was ridiculous. For a church our size numerically, December just made no sense. It just blew our expectations. the level of commitment in the middle of an economy that is inflated, where people are questioning work and work environments and not sure. Your level of commitment and trust to what God's doing here and the leaders here that he's called is incredible, and we don't take it lightly. It's one of the things we talk about almost every month. I feel like a broken record at our board meetings, celebrating what God's doing in spite of us, because we keep things pretty simple here. We don't have any kind of circus going on here. It's a very simple, when we say on Sunday mornings that we're going to keep it about Jesus, it's not just for the new people, it's for all of us to be reminded who we are so we don't lose sight of that and forget that as Jesus instructs us in Matthew 16, it's him who grows his church spiritually, deeply, and numerically. So, with the church plant and with what God is doing in a situation like this, every year is an opportunity for development for us. As God continues to bring more resources and more people, more finances, we get to dream bigger about how we might impact those who call this place home and impact the community where we find ourselves. And so for this year, coming up on our agenda, I wanted to give you just some idea of what's coming down the pike. As I mentioned this morning during announcements, this year, we've tried some youth group stuff over the years. As a smaller church, we had a smaller window of students who fit that youth age. As we grow, we're having more of those students. It's hard to do a youth group when you've got 6 kids in that age. It's just hard. Youth group oftentimes needs to feel like a party, and when it's like 6 of you, it's extremely awkward, and someone's like, tell me about Jesus. And they're like, students are like, please don't pick on me. Please just don't pick me out of a crowd. And it's hard not to do that when there's 5 of you. And so we're now at a stage of development and of life where we not only have the leadership and the resources, but we have the students that might be able to populate that ministry. And we have a number of students. We're still overflowing with children. Gentry, how many kids were in the back classroom? 60, no, I'm just kidding, 16. But listen, they're pre-K and K. Anybody here able to survive that? 16 pre-K? No. Okay, I'm going grayer thinking about it. But our incredible volunteers lead those kids, teach Jesus to those kids. But a lot of our kids are aging out of our student ministries, or our youth ministry, or I should say our children's ministry that ends in 4th grade. And we want something for our 5th graders to 12th graders. So we will be meeting on the 19th to get feedback. Since I was in youth ministry, which I was sadly reminded of what those days looked like, Marlena found some old YouTube videos of my youth group days, which I will not tell you where to find them, but they're humiliating, okay? Humiliating. But she loves me a lot, okay? She thinks everything I do is funny. She's skewed. But youth group has changed a lot since I've been in youth ministry. Before, kids were well connected, and so if you created a space that they could hang out, eat some food, and play Guitar Hero, you could draw kids in. Nowadays, my son plays Fortnite with his kids on his headset. They're more connected than they've ever been. And so finding the thing that draws students, finding a thing that relates to students, I'm finding to be much more complicated than it was 15, 20 years ago when I got into youth men. So we want to meet, we want to hear from our students. We want to hear, and this is the other thing I'm finding, I'm no longer cool anymore. That hurts a little bit. It does. But students don't find me cool. So we need to figure out what engages our students. We want to hear from their parents. So that'll happen on the 19th. And then our hope is to put a plan together and begin to execute that late spring with a team. So I say all that because if that's something that kind of whets your appetite, if that period of life, that stage of life is something that relates for you and you feel like pouring into students relationally and spiritually is something you want, let me know. But that's coming down the pike this year. We're working on some intensive discipleship stuff that'll be coming down the pike as well. We're going to pilot a program and then hopefully have it ready and packaged for the following year. But we'll be piloting some stuff this year that I'm incredibly excited about. This is something very near and dear to me. My passion in ministry, and one of the things that led us to Clearfield out of North Jersey, was that we were doing a lot of administrative ministry in North Jersey, and God was blessing it. We were grateful for it. But my heart has always been grassroots relationship discipleship, like on the ground. And what was weird was we would come out here every 6 to 8 weeks to visit family, and God was like blessing this weird grassroots ministry we had. Like I was getting asked to do weddings where people were like rolling in with coolers of beer, not to the reception, to the ceremony. I mean, that's pretty, and I was like, I love it. Like, if you know me, like, I want to be amongst, I want to be in those environments so I can talk about Jesus and not be weird about it, although I'm always a little weird. So this kind of grassroots discipleship, disciple-making ministry is very near and dear to me. I'm very encouraged and excited about it. We've invested a bunch of resources in that, which you'll see in the budget. But we're building ministry development for a more organic ministry and training process to help you grow in your faith and then help you help others grow in their faith. We talk a lot about equipping the saints for the work of ministry as part of our central vision. This is part of that. Another thing that's been on the radar for me behind the scenes, very behind the scenes, is something we might do during summers, spring, summer, early fall, for our college-aged kids, students, adults. I'm sorry if I offended you by calling you a kid. I never thought that would happen, but I'm almost 40 and now you're a kid. I hated that when I was in that age bracket. But our 18 to 25-year-olds, we want to help connect you with one another, and so we're exploring some ideas for that. Maybe it's a once a month hangout. Maybe it's a summer Bible study where you guys can just connect with your peers and invite your peers. We're not sure. I'm behind the scenes very much exploring this. If you have something, you're in that age range, or you think there'd be something neat to do, let me know. I'd be open to it. But college-ish will probably roll out in the next handful of months if we can find a good ministry strategy for that, and whether it's just a hangout or something more. We want to make sure you feel connected when you're home from college and when you're here with your peers. It's a very formative period of life, and I know not a lot of 18 to 25-year-olds are really that serious about their faith. And so if you are, you're in the minority. I'm incredibly proud of you, and we want to make sure that we're providing resource for you so that stage of life doesn't become more of a burden than it already is. We're continuing to build out our small groups, our women's group, our men's group, our two small groups. They've all been doing very, very well that I'm aware of. And I have, for our two small group specific leaders, I have not been the best resource for you guys. I'm just, we got things running, and I've entrusted a ton to you guys and grateful for your leadership. There's just a lot of balls in the air, and I'm very, very grateful that we've got good leaders leading out on those ministries because I've not been as available as I need to be to them, but they've done an amazing job. So if you're not in a small group, I can't encourage you enough, get in some kind of group life, doing life. I know our ladies and our men's group specifically is on Friday mornings is the men, and our ladies group on Thursday nights are incredibly tight groups, like not tight in the way that you can't get involved in, tight in the way that they love each other and are doing life together. And that's all you can ever ask for. We have this foster care partnership that's been rolling out as well, coming up in 2024 for us. There is a nonprofit ministry that has come to us. They're establishing county beachheads, if I can, countywide beachheads where they're coming alongside our foster care system and providing resources for our foster care families that the state doesn't have resource or needs help with. They're providing what they call wrap families, so families that come along, foster families, to help them in 4 or 5 people that come alongside those families and say, hey, we'll help cook a meal, we'll help drive the kids to sports, we'll help with after school care for those families that are feeling called to foster children, which is an incredibly high need. I've shared this stat with you in a sermon or two. Our numbers in Clearfield County compared to Center County, we have half the population and double the kids in foster care. Half the population and double the kids in foster care. We want, as a church, to be on the ground, boots on the ground, and bringing the kingdom of God where we can. This is a place we think is a huge need in our community, and we want to be involved. So you'll be hearing more about that as the time comes, as weeks go on. And then we're working on a couple of programs. We hired a friend of mine. He's become a friend, I should say. I found him because he wrote for a blog site that I follow, and then found out he was within an hour of me, and then I just reached out and started being a fangirl. And we've since developed a very, very good friendship. We've brought him on as a freelancer, incredible pastor, incredible mind, incredible theologian, incredible writer. He's helping to build out a number of ministry development pieces for us. One was working with me on ID. One is a pastoral internship program. If I can, I would love to get a gaggle of pastoral interns that are just running around this place. Where we can be as much of a blessing and a training ground for them as they are to us as free labor, because let's just be honest, that's what interns are. And so, but honestly, I want us to have a well thought out and thorough process for a year-long program that we can train them up and mature them. And so he's been working with me on that, and then he's working with me as well on an elder development program. So up until this point, we've not had a formal training process to bring on new elders, but it's that time in our life stage where we want to start to expand our leadership in a healthy and right way. We're building out about a 12-month process to make sure that our elders are theologically fit for the process, that their character is in alignment with what Scripture would call us to, and that we do a good and healthy job vetting them. Just so you're aware, our elders don't walk around here and wield their authority. They walk around here and wield their responsibility. When I talk about leadership, leadership is not about authority. Maybe you've been to another church where that's the case. People get on the board because they want to have a vote. They want to have some kind of authority, some kind of power. If our elders are not humbly serving and shepherding the congregation, then they're probably not fit to lead, because we're not in the room to have a voice. We're in the room to have hands and feet and to serve this place that God has called us to serve. So very, very grateful for our elders. Right now our board consists of the Climeys, Kurt Climey, and the Taylors, our voting member John, but John, Jen, Sarah, they are part of that conversation. We get together, we dialogue, we discuss, we pray. I just want you to understand, I don't win every battle in that room. We have consensus on almost everything, but we also have hard questions asked. We have people probing, and sometimes we take a different course because of those dialogues. There is no king here. Whether we have a lead pastor model or not, there's no king here. There's a humble submission to one another. And to be honest, I have drama in other places in my world. This is not one of them. It is an incredible joy to get to serve alongside our elders because they are godly men and women. They love this place humbly and not their own agendas and opinions. They love this place and they love the unity of this place more than those things. And it is an incredible joy, honestly. I'm not gray in any way from this place. It's a beauty to serve. So with all of that, one more thing I want to put on your budget, and then we're going to jump into some finance stuff. Does that sound good? Okay. We are, as you can tell by even today, outgrowing this space. And as that happens, one of the hardest decisions we have to make is what's next. It's a good problem to have. In a perfect world, we'd have a bigger building. Kidsmin is highly restricted for youth ministry. If we want to get a youth ministry off the ground, this room is not conducive. Hi, Millie. You're fine. She's like, uh-oh, he looked at me. Yeah. No, bye. You're so sweet. This building is amazing. I'm grateful for it, but it has its limitations, right? Cafe is in the room with us, and so while they're trying to clean up, they're like stepping over stuff. Kidsmin has 3 rooms, so we've got maybe some bigger age gaps in one room together. We're grateful for that space, but we don't have a youth space or an all-purpose space. There's just limitations, and so ideally we would have a bigger space. Between 10 and 15,000 square feet, room for expansion. That may mean we find land and build. That may mean we find commercial space and retrofit. Our lease here is not horrific. Commercial space in Clearfield is pretty expensive, to be honest. It's weird because we're not exactly a destination resort, but commercial space is pretty high. So I'm not necessarily appalled by what we pay here. I'm grateful for our landlord and how they treat us, but we are either going to go to 2 services this year if what God's doing continues, and then still look for space, or just maybe we'll find space before we go to 2 services. But that's coming. My guess is this year. I've been telling the board for months. We debated on Christmas. Do we go to 2 services? Do we not? Do we try it out? At some point, that's going to be a reality, and it comes with its own logistical headaches and challenges. If we had a bigger building, we could do 1 service for a while. So we're just praying for that. If you get any leads or any resources, we've definitely looked at stuff that's come across our desk. We're not in any rush. We want to make sure that we're prayerfully considering, but if you know of anything, I just want to put it on your radar so that you're aware of where our head and thinking is at. And then the last thing I always want to lay out is, before we get into the budget, 2 things. One, our system for giving is that your pastors and most of your elders don't have even access to giving records and those things. There are two people, Michelle Hammond, our treasurer, who's been faithfully serving us now since the launch of the church, incredibly every month provides a full reconciliation of our books, make sure we have a full transaction detail that your elders can look at every transaction of every penny that's spent and vote on an approval for that, or ask hard questions of, what in the heck is that? And so far they've not caught anything that shouldn't be there, but they, every single month for accountability's sake, the staff have corporate credit cards, they spend money. As far as the income that comes in, we get a total every month. Michelle is the only one with access other than John Taylor, who is one of our elders, but our counting team leader. He has access to those records, is the one who gets your giving statements out at the end of the year. Beyond those two, the rest of us do not have access to those things. We don't see those things. We don't participate in those conversations. At most, I may ask on once a month at our board meetings of John, not to give me details, but I may say, hey, John, we had a big month this month. Was that one big gift, or did that come in small increments? And what I'm trying to find out is not who it was. I don't care. That never comes up. John can confirm that. My question to him is always, can we anticipate that this is growth because they're small increments, kind of like not putting your eggs all in one basket or diversifying your income? Or is this one big gift and we should just expect to be back at our normal giving next month? For me, it's more of a growth metric, but I don't ever find out or hear from who that is or why that is. The last thing is how we compile a budget here is we always underestimate our income, not because we're not people of faith. Every penny that comes into a nonprofit organization, especially a church, is by faith, okay? We're not begging. We don't have a thermometer up here. If I teach on money, I might not even, I might tell you not to give that week just because I want to go the opposite direction. I don't ever want to be accused of trying to manipulate money out of people. We genuinely have boxes in the back because we want you to give as you feel led, not feel compulsion to give. But when we put the budget together, we put the budget together assuming our income below where last year's was and our expenses above where last year's was. So we overinflate our expenses, we underestimate our income. This year, our income, you'll see here in a moment, we estimated $500 below what last year yielded. So we take last year's giving, which was $177,122 and 80 and 30 cents, and we divide that over 12 months, and then we knocked $500 off of that and said, this is what we're going to project for income going into 24. So with that, do I have any questions before we dive into money? Go ahead, girl. What do you got for me? Oh, what's that?
She doesn't think you're weird.
Thank you, sweetheart. I appreciate that. And I thought you were going to ask if we'd stop running out of donuts. We need to get more donuts for you guys next week. We ran out this week. If there's no questions on any of that, we'll get into some numbers, and I'll get you out of here by 12:30 maybe. One more thing. I said this last week. Any line item that's in bold means it has subcategories. I'm obsessive compulsive on the budget, and I want, when I get a printout every month, I want to see what specific line items. So like a marketing budget, that might be print marketing, digital marketing. Like I just want to know like how much we spend on print supplies, how much we spend on the internet. Like I just want to know those specific numbers. Kurt had graciously come to me back in October, November to the board and said, hey, could you not bore us that you broke this entire category down by $20 increments every month and just give us the marketing budget? To which we did, because we don't want to be here till 2 o'clock. So anything in bold, we did that so that we can communicate to you. There are subcategories. If you would like them, I have my computer up here for that reason. I could break that down and just show you the itemized budget. Otherwise, we just gave you the total for that ministry. So we're going to start with income, and then I'm just going to work literally line by line through this thing. Some of you are going to glaze over and fall asleep and start drooling, but this is all in an effort for us to be transparent and accountable to you. Our bylaws now, one more thing, our bylaws do not require a congregational vote, okay? We are considered an elder-led church. We trust our elders to lead this, knowing they will answer to God. But every year we ask that you give us an affirmation and a vote. So I will, at the end of this, ask for your vote. In some sense, it's symbolic, but in another very real sense, if you were to say, we're not comfortable with this, we will go back to the drawing board and go, look, if we don't have the people whom God has called us to serve's buy-in, then what are we doing rolling this out, right? I mean, that's goofy. And so your voice in this matter carries a significant amount of weight, regardless of the fact that our bylaws don't require it. We as leaders want to submit to it. Does that make sense? And that has been value for us from the beginning. So tithes and offerings, you'll notice a big black line down the 4 columns. 2023 and 2024. The first column is our 23 projected budget, what we established last year. The next column is our 23 actual budget. Moving forward, we've got our 24 monthly and our 24 yearly. All of that, of course, is projected. So we projected $144,000 for the year. Our total was $177,122.30. Gang, that's incredible for a church our size. We blew over our budget by $30,000. Thank you. Truly thank you for your trust in us, for your commitment to this place. It's allowing us to do so much more behind the scenes while we continue to steward that well. Michelle, do you have off the top of your head, or could you pull up while we're sitting here, the amount of money we have cash in bank right now? We'll come back to that, but we have some money in savings that if it comes time to buy or build, we're being able, because of your faithfulness, to put together some capital that's going to allow us some reserves for some neat things, Lord willing, in the future. With that said, once we broke that down, I think it was about $16,000. We projected for this year a budget of $15,500 per month for a total of $186,000 for the year. That seems off because we were supposed to be below that. Did I up that for some reason, Michelle? I don't know. That's off because it was supposed to be below last year. Maybe we didn't do that for this year. Maybe we just went with the projected. I'll come back to that because now I got a question on it. Let's go into our expenses. We'll talk gathering expenses, and I'll circle back to that and answer my own question. Guest speakers, we projected 1,500. Whenever we have a guest preacher come in, we compensate them. Preaching, especially if you don't do it on a regular, is quite a bit of work. They spend a lot of time in study and in research, and we want to encourage that. We don't want anyone coming in here willy-nilly. We are a theologically grounded church. We don't want anyone coming in here and teaching you self-help or some nonsense theological garbage. We want them grounded in Scripture, grounded in the Word, and so we want them to put the time and energy and resource in. We spent out of that budget $875. We did not change that line item going forward. My preaching schedule, in a healthy, perfect world, I want you to hear from other communicators. Their walk with Christ, poring over the Scriptures and coming to you is an incredibly high value for us. I'm in the pulpit between 42 and 45 times a year. I think that's a healthy rhythm for any content creator, just taking a breather, taking a break. 1 week as a preacher, you don't really even notice the week off. Those times over the summer when I steal 2 weeks, they're incredibly valuable in helping recharge some of those batteries, getting the creative juices flowing again. And so you'll find a few times over the summer I'll steal a 2-week block. Not usually during the year, the school year, so to speak, but over the summer I'll try to steal a few of those. And we leave that budget there for that. Our Awaken kids total, $1,980. Our projected. Our total was $1,259.55. Let me brag on Kidsmen. What our team leaders, we have 3 now. We had 4 team leaders that oversee that ministry. It's a very complex ministry, from curriculum to scheduling to supplies. What they have built for our children is theologically rich, culturally appropriate for the ages they're teaching, incredibly fun to be there, and the leaders are well trained, and at the same time, it's plug and play. It's amazing what they've created. You can step into that ministry and have everything you need on Sunday morning with very little prep work ahead of time. Some of you, like your grandma did Kidsmen growing up, and like they would show up during a week, they'd have to prep a lesson. Like, it was a lot. And that option is still there for those who want to do it, but for the average person who's just got a few, can show up on Sunday and serve, we want to make sure it's everything it needs to be, and it's easy on our volunteers. What they're pulling off for $1,200 a year and what your children are getting in kids ministry is awesome, and incredibly grateful for how well they've stewarded and how well they've created that ministry. Our budget is $125 and $1,500 a year for that going into 24. Cafe, we budget $4,200 a year. We spent $3,124, $38. So we kept a budget of $4,200. We didn't change that line item. Much of that ministry is being subsidized by so many of those team members. It's their joy to do that. It's probably a lot higher than the $4,200 we budget for. That line item stays in there just in case. But ultimately, so many of your cafe team leader members, I can't tell you the countless hours they put in during the week, prepping anytime we do a meal, showing up early Sunday mornings to make coffee and get donuts out. I mean, they're an awesome team, and they function like a well-oiled machine as well, and we're incredibly grateful for their hospitality. All of our holiday services, that's Easter, Good Friday, and Christmas, We budget $1,260. We spent $180.15 last year. We kept a $1,260 budget going into next year. And the reason we don't spend a lot is because we just don't do a big circus on those days. Again, we're here to worship Jesus. So maybe in the future we'll invest a little bit of money or have creative ideas. But we never want to put too much of a burden on our production guys. Holidays are busy for everybody. What we want to do is come and worship Jesus. And so we don't really do a lot for the holidays as far as any kind of pizzazz. But we want to make sure there's some budget items there in case we need it. Our live stream, to be able to do live stream, 1920, we spent 1990. There was a small upgrade in the services that we've got, so we upped that budget to $2,388 for next year. There's some changes in their software. The entire production budget for the year, that includes our tech team and our worship team, our band, is $3,120. And we spent $2,175.38 last year below budget. We kept it and actually upped it for this year. As the team grows, as we get more members on the team, as some of our technology opportunities grow, and we've got in-ear monitors and a whole bunch of stuff that I don't understand, but do understand the value of, we just upped that budget a little bit. There's some updates we want to make to our live stream to make sure we tighten up the audio and just some other things. So we did up that budget a little bit. Production digital media. I just kind of itemized that one because it's kind of unique in that the $600 that we allocate and the $39.40 that we spent is really things like if we've got sermon graphics, videos before the sermon, they're just nice transition pieces. They help to set some culture, set the tone, especially for our guests. They just kind of bring a different feel to what we're doing. And so there's a budget item there for it. We don't spend a ton. We manage to do pretty well on that stuff. Guest services, this includes our welcome teams at the door, guest services at the desk there. This is a ministry we're hoping to build out and make more robust over this next year. $660 for the year. That includes our breath mints, our communion cups, those kinds of things. $582.71. We left that budget item the same. Weekend church supplies. So again, that just includes, I don't know, weekend church supplies. I don't know. Stuff on the weekends. $660. We spent $409.36. We upped that a little bit to $720. As we're growing, I think I upped that because I threw something else into that budget item, and I don't have my note with me, but I think I threw communion cups for this year into that category, and so I think we upped it to $720 for this year. So our total gathered expression, that's everything that happens under this roof on Sundays. We spent $15,900. We projected $15,900. We spent $10,635.93, so we were quite a bit below that budget. For next year, our projection is $18,936. Again, with a number of developing items, we wanted to overinflate some of our potential expenses, knowing a lot of these budget items are going to likely come in under budget, but we always want to be prepared just in case. Formation, this is kind of our discipleship budget, so think Sunday worship, spiritual life of the church, and then outreach, those three components. So formation is the spiritual development. Pastoral care and allowances, we spent $2,100. We projected $2,100 and spent $48.54.26. This budget item covers a number of things. So let me just explain what it is. It explains any kind of conferences we go to, any kind of books that I buy for sermon prep. If I take you out to lunch and pay for it, it's likely, if I'm using my church card, it's coming out of that account. This year, we are on a whim, had an opportunity out in Wellsboro with a group we're getting connected with, some pastoral friends that I'm building, and we brought a number of our team members to that conference, and so between hotels and the conference, that was a big part of that budget. There were 5 of us that I think went, and so that was a big part of that budget. For next year, we upped that as well because we wanted to make sure, and that item, when it breaks down, if you were to have me break that category down, it's going to break into 3 pieces. The pastoral allowance, it's going to break down into conferences, and then hotels and travel. And so, and continuing education, I guess that's conferences. And so we wanted to up that. We want to continue to invest in our elders, invest in our pastors, invest in our key leaders. And as we have more money, when you don't have money, that's a luxury. You just say, hey guys, invest in yourselves. Here's a great book, read it. As we have the money, we want to make sure that we're making sure that our leaders are healthy. If your leaders are not healthy, then we're not healthy. I don't know if I said it today, but it was in my notes. I heard years ago, what you hate about your organization, in this case church, in 5 years is what you hate about yourself. because you're failing as a leader and those things that are growing up. And this is true of parenting. What you get frustrated with your kids about is probably something going on with you. Oh, my kids are so spoiled. Well, you're spoiling them. You know what I mean? Like the things that frustrate you about the things you're called to lead and steward are probably the things you're failing to do. So we want to make sure that we continue to hold this value high and make sure our team leaders and our pastors are healthy. 514 students, we had no budget available last year. We built out a $1,200 budget for this year. Small group resources, we invest in Right Now Media as a whole for the whole church, and it's something we've encouraged our leaders to use. Small group resources, we had a budget item for $300. We spent $86.90, and for this year we kept the budget item the same. Ministry development, we spent $220.50. This is part of what we're paying Stegman, my buddy, to do as far as building out these pastoral programs, some of this, pastoral internship programs. He's going to take a break at the end of February for us because we don't have any budget items built in for this year. This, again, is a luxury item for us. If we're not running ahead of budget as far as our income, we're not going to pour money into this until we can afford to do it. So that process will come to an end regardless of where we're at in the project at the end of February. Right now he's working again on the pastoral internship, ID, which you'll see in a minute, and the elder development program. There's a couple more items that if I can squeeze in before the end of February, I'm going to have him do. That'll include, Kurt and I were talking this morning about a first-time guest class workshop that will probably turn digital, so you can just get to know who we are in a couple of short videos, but that content needs built. Most of what he's doing is building back-end content for us from a pastoral and theological perspective, stuff I should be doing if I had the time. And so we don't have line items for that or for ID because they're luxury items. So we'll just tell you, we're going to ask you if you're comfortable trusting the board with that. If they see that we can afford it, then they'll release those funds. If they feel like we need to constrain those funds, then they won't release those funds. We don't actually have, that's more of a, here's what we'd like to do, can we afford to do it? Ministry development subscriptions includes Right Now Media, and it says PCO, that's a typo. Our new software is Subsplash, it's where you're using the app from. It handles all of our back-end administrative. The giving software is built into that. Our scheduling software for volunteers is built into that. If you've downloaded the app, there's a chat feature, so we used to use a third-party software for that. Now we can invite you to stay in touch with us, ask for prayer, ask for a need. Hey, I need help moving. My grandma has a couch that needs moved. All of that can happen, and all of that communication for us through the week can happen in that meeting. Or in that app. And so Subsplash became our one-stop shop. One of the things you're going to notice is that the line item here is way over budget. We had budgeted $2,400 and we hit almost $4,800. It's $4,799.62. And the reason that is because I've been with Planning Center, which was our original software, for at least a decade, if not longer. And it was a slow transition to leave one and get to another. Change is never easy, but the implementation process of an entirely new infrastructure for us took us probably 6 months to feel really confident to cut the cord on the other one. So we paid for 2 identical softwares throughout the year, made the transition. This year we were able to make adjustments based on future numbers, $350 a month, $4,200 for the year. Part of that budget item being increased is not that Subsplash is much more expensive, it's that we eliminated another budget item in our budget, which is our website and web development. Subsplash also houses our website now, and so instead of paying a third-party web developer and all these different things, we rolled it all under one umbrella. Later, brother. Tell your daughter thanks for being an encouragement. That was the nicest thing anyone said to me all day. She doesn't think I'm weird. See, I'm not weird. The next line item is ID. We spent $8,032.50. ID is also getting woven into the other stuff, so as we work through ID, as we pilot ID this year, we have built out probably about 65 to 75% of this program. I'm incredibly excited about it. I've talked to a few of you already about it. This will kick off behind the scenes as we pilot some of this stuff, and you will have the full effect of it going into 25. Very, very excited about it, regardless of where we are with the development of it. I'm going to have to finish it on my own if we don't have the budget item for it going into this year. But working with Stegman, we've made incredible progress on this. Leadership development, $42.51. We left the $300 line item in there. Benevolence. Here's what I'm just going to say. We spent no money on benevolence last year, and it's allocated. It's here if you need it or you know someone who needs it. Benevolence is there to pay an electric bill, to help with food gift cards, to help like as an emergency fund. First for the church, then for those outside the church. One of the things that Kurt Weiser is going to be tasked with this year is building a benevolence team and helping to distribute their funds. But we had no requests this year. We have in previous years, we had no requests. Maybe we just need to advertise it better. We need to make mention of it somewhere. Maybe we need to put maybe I'll drop it into the app and we'll add a tab for it just to let people know it's there. For you, it's there. It's for our church if you need it. And then it's for those outside the church if they need it. And so that fund is there. We're going to be building a benevolence team of a handful of individuals who can discern how to distribute and dispense those funds. If that's something that scratches your itch, if you are somebody who has a high gift of mercy and a high gift of discernment, like you're cynical but you love people, like one of those weird combinations of people, probably a good place. Grab Kurt, tell him, hey, I want to be a part of that. You need both. You need to be high mercy and you need to have a lot of discernment because people will take advantage of it. You raise your hand to be part of it or just ask a question? Sure.
And perhaps be a part of it. In my line of work, I meet families who do struggle from time to time with rent repayment.
Sure.
I have given the number out a few times this year, but I wondered if there is, should I be talking about any process of like, we would be helping you look at your budget then if you ask for help, like anything like that I should mention?
Yes, we don't have that built out, but that's one of the things we're building. That's one of the things me and Kurt are going to work together on. We're going to build out that process. Again, there are some situations, you just need to fish. Sometimes you just need to eat. But in a lot of cases, there's some underlying issues. So I think part of the ministry and part of the discipleship process, even for those who don't know Christ, is coming alongside and helping in that. So yeah, financial counseling, those kinds of resources, helping people get on their feet, helping open up other resources and say, hey, this might solve it. We just had a personal situation for my family where we had to do this with a family member. We had to go, hey, the whole family came together and said, we got to fix the underlying problem instead of just keep throwing money at the top of the problem. And so as soon as that's built out in the next handful of months, I think we'll have a much more comprehensive idea of like, here's like a real short bullet point of what's going to be required and how we want to get involved and how we want to help. It's good for two reasons. I hate to be cynical. I've been in this long enough to be able to be a little cynical, I guess. It's a good deterrent for those who are just looking to take advantage. There are those out there. We live in a sinful world. They're out there. And it's a great opportunity for those who want help. So it's designed to do both. Is that fair to say? Can I say that and be comfortable? We're all okay. So that'll be coming down the pike. Total formation budget, we projected 7,200. We spent 18,000. A big chunk of that was our investment in ID and intensive discipleship. And then our overage is on ministry development subscriptions with the overlap of those two softwares. You guys still awake on me? I lied about getting me out of here at 12:30. We're almost done. We're about halfway through. Our projection for this year, $1,200 a monthly and $1,440 for the year. Again, we don't anticipate having those overinflated expenses in this category, but just to give you an idea, our strategic development process has been, let's get Sunday working, okay? Because although this is not everything, in the minds of everybody coming, this is a lot of it, right? People think church, they think Sunday morning. That's not how I want you to think about church. I want you to think broader than that, bigger than that. We are the church. But we're very practical too. We know that we had to get Sunday working, we have to get our live stream working, we have to get our music working, we have to get our kidsmen working. Much of our early development as a church plant was let's get Sundays working. In the fall, we said, okay, let's start pouring into formation. Now we've got Sundays working and it's a well-oiled machine. Our team members know what they're doing. They're plugged to play. Now we want to get involved in developing people's faith deeper. And so you'll start to see us shift in our engagement. Last summer was a lot of outreach. Now we're going into the fall. We're looking at discipleship, rolling out small groups, even halfway rolling them out, and me not being super involved. We're still trying to move in that direction. Our next movement as an organization and in our maturity as an organization is in developing our people and doing what we keep saying we want to do, is equip the saints for the work of ministry. So that's where a lot of our excess money we decided to pour into those categories. Outreach, ministry outreach. We have a number of outreach specific activities outlined. If something comes up that you're like, we should be involved in this, please let me know. And one of the things that I like to be involved in, I don't like creating our own activities. Sometimes people do outreach and they like invent their own festival. Man, there's so many things that happen in our communities. I just want to be present. It drives me crazy when I see these street festivals and there's no churches there. Sometimes that means we're not there either, you know what I mean? So we're just as guilty. But gosh, there's already stuff going on in our community. Let's just jump in and be a part of the life of our community. We're already a part of the life of our community because you live here. Let's just jump in and do it. So you'll notice a lot of these are those kinds of activities. Family Fun Day, which is the big, every church gets together in a community down at the, used to be, it's kind of like the Riverfront Festival in some ways, but it's a big family fun day down at the park. Draws tons of people all over the community. We budgeted $360. We put out $42, $43. Kept that budget item the same. Father-daughter dance. We budgeted $1,200. I think we put out $796, $17. We kept that budget item the same. Fair Week, we went over because we just last minute we were sitting there talking the month before, and a couple of new ideas came up, and we're like, we should do this. So we did some crazy stuff for Fair Week, Fair Parade and Fair Week. Fair Parade, we haven't put a float in the parade, although I'm not opposed to it. It's just a ton of work. And I have an amazing idea for it. I can't wait to do it. But it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. So for the Fair Parade, one of the things we do is we just walk around and give out the candy bags. Like, here's a plastic bag with our logo and website and a little "We Love You" card inside it. And we give out 1,200 of those things this year. 1,200 people were collecting their candy from the Fair Parade in Awaken 514 bags with cards inside, or tracts, I should say, telling them about Jesus. That's a win for me. The whole budget item, I keep looking at the little cross in front of you and thinking your hand is up. I'm like, what, Kurt? What? Yeah. Like, it's like it's happened like 5 times. And then what we did last minute, we decided, hey, we're going to buy a whole bunch of fair tickets and give out free fair tickets. For me, in my mind, I make a distinction between marketing for the church, just letting people know we're here. I'm okay with that. Evangelism, which is literally speaking the gospel to somebody and telling them about Jesus, okay? And then maybe a little bit of like a combination of just building good rapport, right? So I'm okay with all those categories. I don't ever want to confuse them and go, hey, we gave out free fair tickets. That's evangelism. We never told anyone about Jesus. Maybe one or two of our volunteers did. I don't know. I had some good conversations, but I don't know that we were standing on a street corner preaching the gospel. The intention there was more about building rapport with our community and saying, hey, we love you just like Jesus loves you. Like, we just want to be hands and feet and fine. And then there's also meeting needs, right? We can go out and do things as a church that cleans up our community, help somebody whose house got flooded or whatever. There are categories that they blend, but I just want you to understand, we know there's a difference. And we think there's value in all of those things. And so we dumped a whole bunch of money into Fair Week. It is a huge opportunity for us because whether you love it or hate it, this community comes alive. And there's a lot of people here, and it's a neat opportunity. The kids at the one gate that I kept posting up on, I'm pretty sure one of the kids was transgender, and I had the best relationship with all week. She was just absolutely awesome, and just blown away. I didn't tell her the whole week I was a pastor until the end. I intentionally did that to kind of get the shock value out of her, that she got to know me first before she judged me for being one of those self-righteous Christians. And it was neat to get to cultivate a relationship with her. She was like a lobster by the end of the week. The poor girl was burned to a crisp. But it was just a neat moment to kind of get to share that with her. And so there's opportunity there, not just with the people we're giving tickets to, but with the people that are also serving at the fairs. So the new Riverfront Festival, we had a projected budget. It used to be the Bloomingberry Bash. It was a street festival. They've changed it since. We've got $600 outlined. If we do something, we'll probably, because we want to be economical, we'll probably do the same thing for Family Fun Day as we do at the Riverfront Festival, as we do, right, just dust off the same idea. We've done a photo booth the last couple of years. It seems to draw a bunch of people in. It's a bunch of fun. It's an opportunity. So we only budgeted $300, and to be perfectly honest, we missed the festival last year because we were just so burned out from Fair Week and everything else. It was just, we can only do so much. So we have it there. If we have the margin, we'll do it. If we don't have the margin, that's okay. The Share the Love, I skipped over general staffing. I'll come back to it. I'm sorry. I just noticed that. The Share the Love campaign, which is one of my favorite things we do, we budgeted $204. We spent $97.50. Printing costs are really, really cheap. We get like 500 to 1,000 of those cards, super cheap. But it's one of the things that I love. I want to encourage you, where you live, work, and play, to go be a disciple maker. These big outreach church-wide events are fantastic, but my heart beats for the individual church living their individual lives, going to spread the individual gospel where they live, work, and play. That to me, and then my thought is not we come together and then we scatter. My thought is we're already a scattered people who then gather to worship on Sundays. It's a different mentality. Share the Love is one of the things nearest and dear to me. I don't know how successful we are at it, but I will continue to beat that drum and find opportunities to enrich and empower you to go out in those places where you live, work, and play. Outreach apparel, just outfitting our volunteers. 204 projected, 97. Wait, Oh yeah, we spent no money for apparel last year. I lied. So 5,064 is what we budgeted. 45,51.78 is what we spent. This year we're projecting a little bit more, 68,64 for the annual year. Office supplies. 1272. You can see how boring these subcategories might wind up being when I actually have a top heading of office supplies. You're like, what is it, like Post-it notes and pens? Like, how do you break that down? But it's like our P.O. box and things like that. We budgeted 1272. We spent 287.79. We budgeted 1272 for the year. Administrative softwares, we use Google and QuickBooks. We budgeted 1800. We spent 1808.20. We budgeted 1920 just to make sure we don't go over that budget item again this year. Digital media subscriptions is how we edit video and do kind of stuff like that, social media stuff. 720 is what we budgeted. We went 72.98, and we budgeted 720 again. Accounting services, we're almost there, guys. I'm dying. 300 is what we budgeted. 165 is what we spent. We budgeted 300 again. Total operating expenses 4392. Projected budget last year 3,033.97 is what we spent. This year we're projecting 4512 going into the new year. General marketing, full big budget item, 1440. We spent 462. We're continuing to budget 1140. We spent 462. We'll continue to budget for the same. Total website. So this is where we rolled in that other higher category. We projected 852. We came in at 494. We would have spent the 852, but because we switched the website over in like May to a new software, we actually were able to stop spending money on the website earlier than we would have projected. But that 852 rolls up into that other ministry development category, ministry development subscriptions that went up quite a bit. So we no longer, going into next year, have as high of a website budget. We budgeted $60 for this year, and that's just to pay for the domain, essentially. And so we spent for marketing projected 1992. We spent $956.77, and for next year we're projecting $1,200. Building expenses, guys, we're almost there. Interior building expenses, this is everything from toiletries to cleaning supplies to curtains, decor, furniture, all of that falls into that. Anything that has to do with the building on the inside. We projected 1,500, we spent 6385.91. Why in the world was that one so high again? The chairs should have been on the balance sheet though, right? Or did we add it? We added it last minute. Okay, we bought new chairs. We bought 50 new chairs, I think we bought. Because we were putting folding chairs out here, and once we realized that wasn't going to stop, that those people weren't going to stop coming, those jerks, we decided they deserve to sit in comfy chairs too, you know? And so we bought new chairs. We have a stack of them in the back that we can still put out, but we wanted you guys to sit in style. If you have to listen to me, you might as well be comfortable. Shh. And the window coverings. We bought the curtains, the curtain rods, which are just gas piping, and then we bought the drapes there. We did that because the old ones were remote controlled, and we could never get them working for the last 4 years because of remote control. Anyway, couldn't get them working. We wanted curtains we could close during the service and keep the light out, so we have our lights on stage so the screen doesn't wash out and all this stuff. But then we could actually open them and enjoy this beautiful river view and the sunlight, which we're not vampires. We do like the light, and so we wanted to invest just as we have the capital, we want to continue to make improvements. I will say. We built that probably came out of media budget, I think. I showed up here one day and Troy was building a fort. No, I'm just kidding. One thing I will say, we had a number of overload maintenance items, and I wanted to build a building team, and just one of those things that just kept getting pushed to the back burner. I showed up here one day, and there was a handful of volunteers who let themselves in and started doing all the maintenance issues, like the ladies' bathroom stall that wasn't working for the last 5 years. They cleaned up all the weird holes, repainted stuff, just any and everything that needed to be done here. They just kind of took ownership of it. We brought Stanley Steamer in, cleaned the carpet, so your kids could at least run around barefoot and not get hookworm. And so, sorry, it's late in the afternoon, guys. Just really grateful. Again, we talk about this a lot, but this is your space. This is your church. We as leaders are here to serve the church. By the way, the kids that are here are doing amazing. Yeah, you guys are rock stars, except for that one over there with the mouth. The rest of you. He's my kid, okay? I can't necessarily get mad at him. Not like my kid, like he's my kid, like he's me. I mean, that's. So we budgeted what we think we'll spend realistically on building and interiors, about $2,400 a year. So that's what we budgeted for. I separated out cleaning, although it's interior building, because I just want you to see that expense broken out. 2040 is what we budgeted. We spent 2286, 17 every once a week. A team comes through once a month. They do a deep clean. Every week they come in. They do garbages. They do floors. They do bathrooms. We want to make sure those things are kept up to date. We budgeted about $3,000 for next year, just to make sure we can do that deep clean as often as regularly as we need to do. Insurance liability. 1440 is what we budgeted. It was 1471. We raised it to 1500 just to make sure that we don't go over again this year. And then building rents, 33,156 was projected. 33,500 is what we spent. We budgeted 35,100 this year. Our rent goes up very incrementally every year by about $100. Which I'm grateful for. We're not getting gouged, I don't think. But when we break it down, it's like almost $3,000 a month. So now when we talk, you understand when we start talking about buying or building, $3,000 a month in purchasing power is pretty significant. Once you calculate a mortgage, current interest rates are going to kill us. But we could get a $500,000 space or $750,000 space. We could get $1 million space and maybe be in it for like $5,000 a month. And so as much as I'm grateful to have a leased space that we can not worry too much about, we're at the life stage now. When we moved in here, the thought was, it's COVID. We don't know what God's doing. Let's not sign a 10-year lease or buy a building. At this point in time, it feels like we have a little bit more confidence that God wants this place to be here. You want this place to be here, and we're going to continue to grow together. And so a more permanent conversation is at the table. We're not moving until we have something, but we do know what our purchasing power at those numbers, and every year it goes up $100. We know what our purchasing power could buy us. Even with $1,000 a month more, we could have twice the space, and it's ours. So we're just exploring that. And so right now we just bumped our budget 35,100. Total utilities is 5520 we budgeted. Total utilities came out to be 6,300. We came over, I think on electric and water we got hit. We had a running toilet that we got whacked on, and our electric bill was up. So we're now budgeting 7212 for that. So total projected was 43,656. Total spent 49,943.80. Total projected for this year 49,212. And so now we get to our total expenses. We spent a total of $144,425.75 projected. We spent a total of $152,526.73. This year we're projecting $182,898. The one line item I jumped over accidentally, and that's because it didn't have any subcategories. We just gave you a grand total for staffing. We didn't know that it was appropriate necessarily to break down everybody's salaries, but I'm comfortable doing it again. I have my computer if you're curious. I'm more than comfortable doing how we break down pastoral housing, pastoral payments, staff budgets, health insurance, all that nonsense. We can break all that down if you want to. Otherwise, we just gave you our general staffing numbers. We budgeted for $66,221.75. We spent $65,368.19. Next year, you're going to notice our budget jumped. There's a number of factors for this. We have increased the salaries of the existing staff members and then brought on for paid staff 2 individuals. One, Michelle, our bookkeeper, has been doing this with nothing more than a thank you for the last 4 years. We thought it appropriate to give her a stipend. And then the second thing we're doing as we grow, average staffing models for a church is about 1 pastor to every, for a conservatively staffed church, about 1 to 80. For a liberally staffed church that has a lot of staff is about 1 to 70. We're operating at almost 200. We're inching up towards 200, and we're still functioning with about 1 1/4 pastors. So paid staff. So we thought it appropriate, especially with my time restrictions and limitations, to bring on an administrative assistant to help offset the operations, to help support our various team leaders. I'll be honest with you, what we're accomplishing with volunteer team leadership, every one of our teams has a team leader responsible for that team, responsible for the people, training them, the execution of that ministry. We have a very effective staff model. when we began to have this conversation with other pastors that we were looking to figure out how do we staff well, what's the next step for us in staffing, most of them were baffled that we're doing what we're doing with the skeleton crew we're doing. But again, a lot of that is credit to you and your hearts to serve, the team leaders that serve, that many of which aren't even here. Just incredible what we're doing and how God is blessing our efforts tenfold from the time and energy and resource that we have. So we did think it appropriate to bring on an administrative assistant. So Becca Graham, for those of you who know Becca, she helps lead worship up here. She's sitting right here in the front row. She's going to be coming on as a part-time administrative assistant as well, helping to offset already. I'm throwing crap at her, and she's doing an awesome job with it. She's just done an awesome job coming in. We sat down. I showed her kind of our softwares, our systems, and all these things. And usually like that first, like if you've ever gotten a new job, like that first day onboarding, you're like glazed over. You catch like half of it. Your notes, you can't understand half of them. And you just kind of, the first month is just a you-know-what shoot. She just jumped in, and I was like, hey, could you get an email out to the church? And like, the new software is a little bit weird. You have to pull a list down, curate it, get it. I mean, she got the email out to you guys, letting you know that, hey, we got a meeting reminder. Here's what's going on. So she just grasped everything we needed her to do, and she's going to be an awesome part of the team. She's already an awesome volunteer, but her and her family, Troy as well, behind the scenes, they have served you beautifully over this last year. We're grateful to have her on the team. They've both got a ton of background in ministry and Bible schools and all kinds of stuff. We're just grateful to have them with us and grateful to have them serving alongside us. So from an administrative perspective, she's just a huge support to the church and to your team leaders and to me and your elders. And so we're very, very grateful to have that change. And so between the salary increases, the 2 new members coming on, we've increased general staffing to 87,774 for the year. And honestly, in my opinion, still pretty skeleton crew. But we do that because we want to be good stewards, and we genuinely believe. I talk about this in my sermons, but we don't want to ever become bloated and top down. I think if we do, we've lost sight of that Ephesians 4 passage we cling to really tightly, which is that our job is to equip the saints to do the work of ministry. We want to make sure that we're doing our job to disciple and to equip, and then that we're inviting people to be a part of the ministry, not just paying professionals and letting you sit around and be spectators and consumers. That is not a church. That's a weird nonprofit that is broken, to be honest, and the way many churches function. I've been a part of those churches. I've helped lead some of those churches. I've failed to lead properly in those ways. They function that way, a very corporate model. And I think that we don't become all that God is planning for us to be when we're bloated as a staff. Still very, very much understaffed, in my personal opinion. You may feel different, but grateful for the team that we have, the volunteers we have, the leaders who take on so much responsibility and continue to serve faithfully. And so that's our budget. I will take questions now. We're coming up on 1 o'clock.
Did you want
Yes, the total.
totals for both the certificate and the checking balance?
Yep.
So as of December 31st, checking balance was 55,504.
So as of December 31st, the checking account balance was $55,504. $4.
We also have a savings certificate of deposit that as of December 31st is 51,789.
So we, mid-year, got approached about maybe doing something with our nest egg there that was inching up towards the $100,000 mark. And so we put it into a CD to make a little bit of money on our money. I had a bad lapse of judgment the night we were calculating the numbers, which I'm still not living down, like 9 months later, 12 months. It was a 9-month CD, the first one. Yeah, so it's been almost a year, guys, okay? Feel bad for me. Feel bad for me. I had a miscalculation at the meeting. I was like, God, we're going to make like $4 million on this thing in like 9 months, which they don't let me live down to this day. And the weird thing is I'm pretty good with numbers. And so it was a bad night for me. Didn't have enough coffee, I don't know, but not living it down. And so what we did is we put that money into a CD. We can't touch it for 9 months, and then it rolls over. If we choose to roll it over, we get more. There was income we did not count as part of this budget that came in that was almost $2,000 for the 9 months. It was like 19 or 17 and change-ish. What was it? 17 and change, okay. So we made some money on our money just trying to be good stewards with that. We felt like it was a pretty secure investment. It was a long-term CD. We don't expect the bank to take our money and run. So felt like as elders it was a good stewardship opportunity. So in that account, now we rolled it over for another 9 months. It's probably a month or so in, is $51,789. So in total, we're sitting on over $100,000 of cash in bank, essentially. money that can be used for a down payment, money that can be used for construction, money that can be used for a rainy day. We never want to be stingy with our money. It's one of the reasons the church is investing in some of those. You can see now why we were like, hey, we can invest in ID, we can invest in some spiritual formation, we can invest in some of these things. And in my opinion, I think still have been fairly reserved as we do that. So we just want to be good stewards. We want to, as much as we can, be debt-free on smart things. There's, for me, a mortgage is a smart thing that you can carry debt on, but where we can be debt-free, where we can be good stewards and good shepherds, we want to be. So grateful for your generosity. This is a weird thing. I never ask for money or don't ask for money, but here's what I'll simply say. Please don't hear that number and go, good, I don't have to give. We're good for a while. We are saving for a building, and when that day comes, they're going to go, we need 20% down. And we're going to go, well, 20%. Okay. So when you're thinking purchasing power and 20% down on a building, $100,000 only buys us so much. So we are grateful. We are a church plant who started in a movie theater, and COVID hit 3 months later, guys. We were shut down longer than we were up when we came back in July of 2020, I think. We were down for 4 months, had only been up for 3. We are watching God do something incredible here. And I say this often as I can or remember to, but it's a joy to be here for me. It's a joy to serve this place. It's a joy to just come and be a part of this place. I don't know how else to say it. It's busy. There's stuff to do, always people to connect with. I sometimes feel like my schedule is booked, but it's never a stressful burden. It's never. I left a situation a number of years ago, and one of my mentors, I said, hey, I'm busier than I've ever been, but I feel less stressed. And he made this interesting statement. He said, it's because you're under stress, but you're not under duress. That emotional duress, that emotional trauma, when you're in conflict all the time and there's ugliness around you, sometimes that's harder to deal with than just having a busy to-do list. I'm never under duress here, and it's a joy to be here. And I think our team leaders would say the same. I think our elders would say the same. It's just a joy to be here. Grateful for what God's doing, and have no question about the fact that we couldn't write the manual on how to plant a healthy church, because honestly, it doesn't make any sense what God's doing, and we're just along for the ride and trying to be faithful stewards of what he's doing. So all that said, any other questions or anything else that needs to be put out? Oh, not you, Patrick. You were a nightmare last year. Go ahead. Say it again. Yep. How is that happening? So wait, you're saying the total for that line item is not calculating right? Thanks, Excel, you jerk. What are we missing here? Let me see. You see what I got to live with? I am under duress. I lied. I know you do. I'm not. Let me double check. I don't know what it's calculating. It might be adding up another category. Usually there's another zero on the end. Yeah, usually I add extra zeros, not just an extra $2,000. So you're saying the total when you added it was what? 16,548. Awesome. I like that. Well, now I've got questions. What I'll do then, we have poured over this thing for months, and still we get things like this. So what I'll do is I'm gonna double check everything again, because I don't know why the spreadsheet's over totaling. I must be pulling in something else that I'm not aware of in the formulas. I'm gonna just confirm everything and make sure that if there's anything else, I'll notify you guys. Is there anything else that you noticed that's not totaling? Did you totaled everything? I'm guessing. You're the man. I love you. All right. That it, huh? No other questions? Is that it, really? Okay. I mean, I'll just get us out of here. It's 1:01. Oh, no. God, no. Why did you point him out? No, I'm not calling on him. What do you want? That's why I'm not calling on him, because he's my kid. Okay, well, that was painless. If you have questions that come up, just reach out. Last thing I'll say is this: our board meetings are open board meetings. They happen usually second Wednesday of every month. Just confirm with me before you come. You're always welcome. I've said this before, there are no closed doors to you. The only reason I say confirm with me is sometimes our schedules get wonky and we bump it a day or we bump it a week in the month. So I just don't want you showing up here and no one's here. They happen from 6 to 8. Sometimes we get out early. It depends on how much. Honestly, we gas bag quite a bit. We could probably get done in about an hour and 10 minutes. We do enjoy being together. We enjoy laughing. We get derailed in our conversations pretty often, but that's a good problem to have. So plan for 6 to 8 if you want to be there. I will say this: we structure the board meeting in a way with three V's. The guy who came up with this, I would not advocate listening to him, but I thought this was actually worth taking. There's those in the room with a vote, there's those in the room with a voice, and there's those in the room with a view. I say it like that because there are those in the room with a voice who have an equal voice as those with a vote. When we call our elders, we're calling husbands to vote, but we're inviting their wives to be an equal voice in the room. Again, it's easy to say that. If you were to join us month in and month out, you would find that that is an absolute true to how we function. If you come in and you're just visiting, we may give you a voice. We may say, hey, what do you think of this? Just in an outside perspective, but just know you're coming in with a view. At the very end of our meeting, always on our agenda is additional comments or questions. In that moment, we will always offer a voice to whoever wants to say, hey, I've got some questions about what went on tonight, or I've got some questions for you guys. Maybe just you want to hang back and talk to me. You may have something for the whole board. Just know you're not coming to like steer the ship. I guess that's why I say that. Like just hijack the meeting and be like, I have my own agenda. There's a place for you at the end there, but in the meantime, shut your mouth. Okay, so no, I'm kidding, kind of. So we respectfully say there's those with a vote. Those with a vote understand that they will answer to God for how they vote and how they lead this church. I want that weight felt terribly on our elders. It is not a light call to eldership. And then there's those with an equal voice in the room. And then, of course, as we're an open meeting, you have a view to anything going on in this place. We go through the budget line by line. We look at the transaction detail. We talk about upcoming ministries. We vote on changes, staff, ministry, or otherwise. We talk about conflicts that are going on in the church. We don't really ever have any, but those kinds of things would happen at the board meeting. But all those things are there. So if you want to be there, second Wednesday of the month, 6 to 8, just notify us that you plan to come or check in with us in case we've changed the schedule at all or in any way. So if that's all we got, I'll ask for a vote from you if that's okay, because we do believe your voice matters. You're the church, and we've been called to serve the church. And so I will just ask for a motion to approve the 2024 projected budget as has been read with the amendment of the expense column to 16,548 because of my math calculations being off. Can I get a motion? Do I do a motion? How do we do a motion? Who wants to make the motion? We're not. Jerry, thanks, bud. We have a second. Who said second? Oh, I see Patrick. That makes me feel good because you ask hard questions. Patrick's on board. I feel good. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay. Well, thank you for being here. Thanks for staying late, guys. I'm just going to plan for 1 o'clock every year. The last thing I will say is, I was talking to Michelle this morning. I hadn't even talked to our elders about it. Maybe next year we think of pushing this to February so we have more time to go over the budget and make sure I don't have typos. Okay, we'll talk more about that. But, hey, thank you for being here.